Computer. Hi, my name's Jessica Gould from J Gould Consulting. I work around the disability community throughout the state of California, and I also interact with professionals outside the disability space. When I do this, I get a series of questions consistently, and that is why I've asked for this meeting today to get some answers from the ARCA perspective and also just get some clarification and more knowledge out to the general public.
Perfect. Thanks for having me here today.
Thank you for being here. So the first question is pretty simple. Who are you and who are you? What is your organization and what is your role?
Sure. My name is Amy Wesling. I am the executive director of the Association of Regional Center Agencies, also known as ARCA. In terms of myself, I worked previously for two of the state's regional centers. One, I focused a lot on services to school-age children in rural Merced and Mariposa counties. And in the other regional center, I worked a lot with individuals who were living in state developmental centers and helping them to move back into the community. In terms of my organization, ARCA represents the 21 regional centers in the state of California. It's important to know that regional centers are designed to be responsive to their own communities, and so ARCA helps to coordinate them at the statewide level. So we work to represent them in Sacramento in a couple of ways. First, we do a lot of legislative work on behalf of the regional centers in terms of figuring out what policy would make things better for those individuals that we serve and their families. And part of that also comes down to trying to get additional funding into the system to better support service delivery for people to improve their lives. And the other part of what we do is we work very closely with the Department of Developmental Services, which funds the work of regional centers and service providers. And we work with them on implementation of new laws and regulations and help to shape what that looks like at the ground level throughout the state of California. And then finally, the role of ARCA is to help coordinate important discussions between regional centers so that they can share best practices and they can come together and problem solve issues that they're facing together.
Okay, you kind of answered my last couple questions, but maybe going into a little bit more detail, because the rest of these questions are more, why does ARCA engage the public? And by that, I don't just mean in regional center settings, because I've been in those meetings and they are pretty closed off, but I've also seen you guys go out to public individuals served. So the next couple questions are around, why does ARCA do that? What does it bring to the organization? And what do you do with that information?
Okay. Yeah, I think that one thing that we recognize is that the staff that we have and our interactions with regional centers really give us that professional perspective. So they help us to see the system of supports and services that individuals we support are receiving through that professional lens. And it's our interaction with the public in a variety of ways that helps us to better understand it from probably the most critical perspective, which is the perspective of the lived experience of individuals we serve and their families. And so we do a fair amount of communication out about initiatives that regional centers are undertaking. So we do we have a webinar series that helps to explain the work of regional centers and helps to um, provide the general public with information about a variety of topics. So we've done them on employment, emergency preparedness, cultural responsiveness, self-determination program, what you can expect in regional center intake. So that's really our outward communication. That's mostly one-way communication, but we also then do take questions and respond to those. And we try to respond in writing so that people can walk away with a resource to answer some of the most pressing questions that they have. The other thing that providing responses in writing does is it allows us to ensure that the information is translated into Spanish, which we know is very critical for the population we support. One thing that's also important to know is that our board of directors is made up of the 21 regional center directors, but also a representative of their own board of directors. And we call those board delegates. And the function of the board delegates group really is to bring us feedback that they hear from their own communities. We can't be everywhere. We're based in Sacramento. And so the thing that the board delegates bring is the feedback and the thoughts and perspectives that they hear from their own boards, but also from their own communities. Additionally, a lot of our board delegates are themselves individuals served by the regional center or family members. So we really feel like the work that they do helps to center us. As well as we have a client advisory committee, again, made up of individuals who have lived experience as someone with a developmental disability, who can tell us what it is like interfacing with regional centers, where those challenges are, where those successes are. And really they support the work of each other in terms of the work that they are doing at the local level with the self-advocacy community oftentimes. And they also bring us feedback from their own communities. So those are some of the ways that we interact with the community, and then we use that feedback to then shape the work that we do. I think it's really notable, like I said, that half of our board of directors are not people who get a paycheck from the regional center. They are community members who serve on boards of directors. And we really value that input and the perspective they bring. And it helps to keep us focused on the most important thing, which is improving service delivery for those we support.
Well, thank you very much. Those were actually all of my questions. Before I end this interview and recording, are there any questions you have for me as far as what I outlined before I asked you to do this?
I think my biggest question for you is how do you see your work intersecting with ours?
So I see myself as an interconnector to the whole system. I encountered what I call the lost, confused, and kind of in between people a lot. I did this even before I opened my company 4 years ago. It would happen even when I was walking down the street. Um, so so I really just wanted to open a company that had no political motive, no ulterior motive outside of connecting major organizations like ARCA to the general population. And I mean, this like it extends to regional centers because I work with regional centers as well in that same capacity. But it's basically educating the general public about this population, number one, about how it actually works, number two, and then helping people get to it, and then helping on a legislative platform. So my ultimate goal is that the disability community gets the same equal consideration as any underserved population. And until that happens, that will be what my company does.
What a tremendous thing you're doing to give back.
Yeah.
In terms of, I think that there are lots of folks who recognize gaps in public knowledge or those kinds of things and sit back and say, well, I wish it was different. And so, I appreciate that you're working to fill that space.
Yeah,
Really bring a perspective to help make the public and hopefully all of us better.
exactly. And I also want to say I appreciate that I've been able to work with ARCA so well over the last 4 years. It makes it easier to disseminate that information throughout.
Right, right, yes, and we're always looking for community partnerships, and recognize that people may not always see things from the same perspective, but that makes the conversation richer. Because I think that I personally come to this work with the belief that we're all here for the same fundamental reason, which is to improve the lives of people we serve. And we recognize that our service system continues to evolve, and it needs to continue to evolve. If you think back to what if we had stopped evolving in 1969, the world would be a very different place for lots of people. And so, it's always exciting to me to think about what's going to be that next step we collectively take together. And how can we continue to not only improve our service system, but improve overall life for people, including how can we have a greater impact on the community as a whole? Because we recognize that individuals with disabilities aren't just going to be bubble wrapped and kept from the community. And so, and for good reason, not only are their lives improved when we have greater community inclusion, and integration, but the community as a whole is richer because of it. And it's really been gratifying over my career to see even the community's attitudes shifting towards individuals with disabilities, but it's only through people who have disabilities and their families that we're able to make such significant strides in that area.
Makes complete sense.
Perfect. Did you have any other questions for me?
Oh no, those were it. You did amazingly, and I'm going to stop this recording. Thank you so much, Amy.
All right. Thanks, Jessica.